we back up when we fall, we'll try again.
Cool, Aaron. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. We've already had this great conversation and now I just want to get it on the record. So welcome to the podcast.
You're just pulling this out of people. You've got a natural knack for this, by the way. Thank you very much, Aaron. It's great to be here, man.
Well, thank you for reaching out and wanting to come on and talk about 2020 and how it kind of, I think as you put it in your original DM, how you lost and found things out on the trail.
Oh yeah, definitely. You lose your mind, you lose yourself, you lose all these things, and you somehow find it along the way. And everybody waits for this great epiphany, you know, doing a trail like this. They think there's going to be this moment where everything clicks, and it didn't happen for me the entire trail until a month or two after the trail, when I was sitting there and started looking at myself, and I'd honestly changed completely. It was funnily enough a phone call that I had at home with a friend, and he said, "You sound completely different." He's like, "It's changed you." And I was like, I didn't even realize it had, you know. And then I started to notice all these little things about me. It definitely had changed me.
Like what?
I was always a people person. I liked to be around big groups of people and in a busy room, and I'd find myself going out and I just want to go home, or I'd want a smaller circle of friends, because I'd built such intimate and deep connections with people out there that the connections that I'd made with just random people didn't hold any weight. I mean, there's always value in meeting somebody new, but it's a completely different set of circumstances when you spend 6 months walking with somebody every day, and no conversation is ever a small conversation. It always almost immediately snowballs into the larger questions of life, and you figure things out so quickly because you're having these deep conversations while seeing these incredible things. And it's almost like the experience snowballs itself into becoming too big to even fathom. And when you do actually stop and have the time to fathom what's actually happened, then you only start seeing these little nuances and these little pieces that you were like, wow, that's actually changed me. That's actually, and it can be something as simple as I used to enjoy going out with friends, and now I'd just like to meet one or two friends and rather hang out with them instead of hanging out with 20 people. So it was a very different sort of way that it happened for me. I don't know if anybody else sort of felt that out there, but I noticed a larger change towards the end of the trail.
Almost like you were integrating all the small pieces that had been happening along the way.
Definitely. And as soon as I started getting out the photo albums and the videos and re-watching back this like daily journal that I took, then I only started seeing the change in what I was talking about. In the beginning, I was talking about like, wow, the scenery is beautiful, and I wonder what today is going to hold. And by the end of it, I was like, we're doing this many miles today. These are the conversations we've been having. This is what the group's morale is like. This is what my morale is like. And it went completely from an outward perspective to an inward perspective. I started talking about myself a lot more, which I never really did before the trail. I was just going along with the flow and taking everything in. And all of a sudden, everything was already in me, and I was expressing that. And the trail definitely gives you a form of honest expression, because the people out there are so raw and so real, and it definitely takes a special breed of character to walk 2,500 miles north. And the bonds you form out there are just not instantaneous, but very, very long lasting. And they give you the space to be expressive almost naturally without you even thinking it happens. It doesn't trick you into it happening, but you find yourself doing it so naturally.
It's funny that you say that, because I feel like a lot of people have that epiphany along the way. Like they're finding something that was
Yes,
already really within them, but for whatever reason they hadn't
yes,
taken time to explore or think through.
yeah. I don't know. I had this running comment that you weren't out there to find yourself. You were there to lose the person that you never really were. And towards the end of the trail, you're left with such an honest version of yourself that you actually look back and be like, who was I before I did this walk? Was I even the real me? Or the trail completely strips you of who you're not meant to be, and really does show you that if you are yourself and the most honest version of yourself, the people that are gravitated towards that real you are phenomenal, and they do carry you through some of the worst times you can go through.
I've had a number of people tell me that the person that they find on the trail, and it's almost like the personification in their trail name. So, insert trail name, is the best version of myself,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yes, no, definitely. That's it's so true. And you later on in months, you hang on to that so tightly that it sometimes frustrates you that you can't be that same person out on the trail, because it's a completely different world.
Mm-hmm.
This world, the real world, and the life on trail becomes two completely separate things. And towards the end of it, that's the real world, and you're coming back to this alternate reality that you don't even want to come back to be dead honest. I mean, some people,
Yeah.
They get to it and they want to leave, but if I'm honest, I would have turned around and just walked straight back south if I could have.
Just keep yo-yoing back and forth.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely bitten. The bug's bitten. They say when the bug bites, it bites hard, and I never thought I'd be one of those people, and I'm infatuated with it now.
Is what you're doing now a manifestation of the new sort of person that you found on the trail?
In terms of work and what I'm doing now with my life,
Yeah.
I'd always been in this job, or
Okay.
not always. I'd been doing this for about 5 years, and then when I left the trail, there are sort of different aspects to the job. So you can get a more stringent vessel or a stringent boat, and you can get a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere. And I definitely, when I left the trail, I wanted something with a more relaxed atmosphere that was going on a bit more of an adventure. And that's how I found myself here in Costa Rica now.
Well, I guess explain a little bit of what you're doing now, so that the people who are listening can understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much I work on a private yacht. It's owned by a guy, and he's doing a round the world trip with his family, and I'm one of the crew members. It's like Below Deck, but without all of the fake TV drama and the nonsense like that. I mean, we do work at sea, and we do have our little niggles here and there, but it's become a very much family-like atmosphere and culture. And we're going around the world, and along the way, we're seeing these incredible things and seeing these amazing places. And I think how the trail relates to me doing that now is I would have before just looked at the money. How much money can I get from doing this? And now I'm looking at what experience can I get from what I'm doing? Does that sort of benefit me as a person instead of financially?
I know that COVID has kind of messed with those plans a little bit, but how long was the original journey supposed to take?
This trip around the world?
Yeah.
We're going for 2 years.
Okay.
We're going for 2 years. So this trip started 4 months ago in West Palm Beach in Florida, and we've just made our way south, and then we're in the Pacific Ocean now, heading west. And where we end up due to COVID is anyone's guess. The plans can change from 1 week to the next. So
Yeah.
it's a factor of life that everyone's dealing with, and we're all dealing with it in our own way. But I'm definitely grateful to be where I am and experience the things I am. Especially in such a period of lockdown. It's not a bad place to be, locked down on a yacht. I can tell you that.
Yeah, there are definitely worst places.
Yes.
I wanted to circle back to something we had been talking about before we started the episode, but I feel like it was so important. And that was, we were talking about your presence on social media during your PCT hike, because your PCT hike was in 2020.
Yes.
And that you didn't do much posting. And kind of
No. We'd said before that I was going to have a larger social media presence. It's a very easy way for friends and family to keep up with you. And, when in 2019, when other people were doing their PCT hike, I followed along with them and lived vicariously through them and looked at the gear they were using. And it was a massive resource for information. And 2020 came along and COVID hit, and there was all of this sort of backlash to those that were carrying on hiking. And I posted 1 or 2 pictures, and there were 1 or 2 comments that were, "Why are you still out there? What are you doing?" And I just thought, well, I'll withdraw from that form of expression, and I'll kind of won't post on social media anymore. I'll more look at this taking the hike in for myself, which I was already doing originally, but I just thought that would be a good avenue to share it with friends and family. And I think I said earlier that sort of changed things for me, because when you are out there, there is this little back ticker in your head, oh, would that be good for social media? Would that be good for a post? And because I'd sort of taken that away and out of the equation, I started taking photos and videos for different reasons. And that was almost more of like I was grateful for it. In the beginning, I kind of resented the resentment from other people. But a month later, I was grateful for it, because I was taking photos, thinking about friends, laughing and sending them vlogs of experiences that I was having that I wish they could share with me. And I started remembering the journey for different reasons while I was doing the journey. And it benefited me greatly. I look back on all the photos and I think to myself, I really wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
So something that initially was a not a hindrance, but a ding, okay, this is going to change my trip in, some way type of thing became,
yes, in X, Y, and Z way. It was a bump in the road, became a positive thing. And to be honest, that is how the entire COVID experience was on the trail. I mean, I'll jump into this right now, but in the beginning, when we didn't really know if we should be out there or not, and the lines were very, very blurred. There were a lot of internationals, and by that I mean people that had come from overseas, and our exchange rate isn't as strong as the dollar, and the financial factor is involved, and just you couldn't go back home. There wasn't a flight home, and you can't just go and sit in a hotel for months on end waiting to get home. The decision was made to walk north, and it was made very, very quickly. We were going to Canada. That's what was happening. And people called us selfish. People called us arrogant and uncaring. But then all of a sudden, something started happening in the trail towns that we were in, and the hitches that we were getting, and the trail angels that were helping us. They were cheering us on. They were grateful we were there. They were almost so excited to see us. And we were taking every precaution we could we were being as respectful to the trail towns, the Airbnbs, the hotels, the hitches as we could. And they were pulling us in even tighter. They were saying, come on, get in the car. We'll help you. Don't worry. We'll help you get there. You're not alone. Some people have abandoned you, but we're still here. We're helping you get north. And that the sense of community was hit hard and put through this hard thing, but to know that there was still a community and there were those in the community that were still helping us get there was unbelievable. The gratitude for that was, still to this day, I get choked up thinking about how kind the people along the PCT are. I kind of call it this vein that runs along the West Coast and along these separate trail towns, and hikers are just the blood that runs through this artery running up the West Coast of America. And these little trail towns were just so happy to see us because some of these people had opened businesses specifically catered to hikers. They put their life savings into opening bed and breakfasts and hiking shops and gear shops, knowing that it's a growing industry. And all of a sudden, there was this massive loss of finance. And a couple of us were there, and we were there to help them. When we went to a restaurant, if we were allowed in, the tips were bigger. When a trail angel would stop and they said they didn't want any money, we'd insist. When we'd leave Airbnbs, we'd leave a little bit of extra money for the cleaning staff or for the struggling Airbnb, just to help them out and say, thank you. Stay here, stay strong. The community is coming back. In fact, we haven't gone anywhere. We stand by you. It's a difficult thing that we have to face together. And we did it as safely and as responsibly as we were allowed to. But we were there for each other. And I want people to understand that I was thousands of miles away from home. And all I had was this community. I didn't have anyone else. I'd landed in San Diego on my own, alone, thousands of miles from anybody. And you start this walk wondering what's going to happen. And a week in, you hear about this disease. And the first people you turn to are the people around you. And the people I'm so grateful that the people I turned to were hikers and through hikers, because they're incredibly resilient. It's unbelievable. It's a community like no other. And I experienced it in a very, very trying time. And that made it really, really special.
You truly, truly got to see people at their quote unquote worst and
yes,
rise to the occasion, so to speak.
And they rose to the occasion. I lost half a tooth halfway through a trail. I think it was in Tehachapi, and one of the trail angels out there, I won't mention any names, an older couple, I'm sure all the 2020 hikers know them. She waited outside of the dentist for me for 4 hours, crocheting in her car because I needed to get my tooth fixed to carry on getting north, and welcomed us into their home and made us coffee. And we said, aren't you scared? And they said, who else is going to help you get there? Where are you going to sleep tonight? Can we do anything for you? Do you need to go to the shops? And when you're that far away from home and you haven't had a home cooked meal in a really long time, and there's this old lady you've never met in your life offering to help you out and giving you stickers, it's a silly thing, but man, it means a lot. Hey, it really, really does.
Yeah. It's amazing how people step up, step into the breach, so to speak, and
yes,
and pick people up literally and figuratively, to get through.
Yes, definitely. From your lowest moments of wondering how we are going to get into town, to all of a sudden somebody is there in a car with a van, and all your worries are immediately gone for the next 2 days. And it becomes this little vortex of, we've got to get north, but wow, do we really want to leave? This is amazing. And it was crazy. People call it a vortex, and these little vortexes, and that's what was so different, is it wasn't a vortex because there were parties happening. There were vortexes happening because of the kindness and generosity shown from these individuals. And I mean, I would have given that woman the shirt off my back if she'd asked for it. I mean, it was anything to show the gratitude for them, and it wasn't just one case, it was multiple cases. I mean, we met some cowboys coming out of Agua Dulce, and they said, "You guys going north?" And we said, "Yes." And they were just like, "Hell yeah, don't stop. You can do it. Don't let anybody stop you." And the next 10 miles feel like you're floating on a cloud, just because somebody rides past on a horse and is behind you, and there were those little instances that really, really made it special.
How many people were you hiking with, or were kind of in your group, in your bubble?
I started on my own, and within, I think it was the second day, I met 3 other people, and we hiked together for about 3 weeks. And then I met 3 other internationals, 2 French guys, a South Korean, and the girl that I'd hiked with on the second day from the Netherlands, and me. And the 5 of us went all the way to the Sierras. And then we started hiking through the Sierras. I think we hiked with another 5 or 6 people. So we were quite a big group going through the Sierras. And then we carried on with that. And I'd say the average was like between 10 and 11. And we actually finished with 11 of us.
That is a big group.
Yeah, there was a big group of us. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was. And it was very funny that, like, we didn't really have trail names because there weren't that many people out there to give them. And then I only got my trail name a month before I finished. And we sort of had group names, like the Samba crew, or the crew with a South African in it, or something like that. And by the end of it, everybody was just we were the 2020 group of hikers,
Mm-hmm.
You don't even hike with some of the people, but you see their names in the trail registries in the trail book, and you're like, they're still on trail. They're still going. Go on, don't stop.
Keep pushing.
We're right behind you. We're coming. Yeah, keep pushing. Keep hike on. So
I feel like
the sense of community.
Yeah, I feel like this year, because of this, last year actually, because of the situation, because of how everything came together, was almost very much, the 2020 class on the PCT was very much an international hiker class. I mean, there were some Americans and that kind of thing, but it was really people coming over, people traveling in, and then sort of got stuck and had, like you said, no choice.
Yes.
Like, it's like, walk north. That's what we're going to do, because that's the best option we've got.
That's what we're going to do. That was, the only option we had was to keep on keeping on, and it wasn't to be disrespectful to anyone. It was literally what we had to do. And I mean, it was, I think, hands down the best year. We had the entire trail to ourselves. People talk about getting to campsites and having to walk another 2-3 miles at the end of a long day to find a camp, or not being able to sleep because there's too many people making noise, or trash being left out all over the trail. And there was none of that. Yeah. I mean, Jackie at Triple Crown Outfitters, I might be getting the numbers wrong, but she said she had only had 5% of the hikers come through that had come through in 2019. We had the entire trail, this part to ourselves. We had the woods to ourselves. And I think as much as we gave the trail for being there, I think it gave us something back. I think it gave us that exclusivity back. We looked after the trail, and we made sure that we left it better than we found it for the class of 2021. Like, trail magic doesn't just happen when somebody gives you something. It's as simple as walking in front of somebody else and using your hiking pole to push a stick out of the way so that they don't trip over it, or moving a log so that somebody else doesn't lose momentum when they're coming up the uphill, or somebody's trash might have fallen out of their pocket and they didn't know, and instead of walking past it, you pick it up and put it in your pocket. And there was a massive culture for that this year on the trail. We really tried to make sure that we weren't remembered as they resented us and so we're going to resent them. That ethos of leave it in a better way than you found it for the people, for the future generations, was instilled from the beginning.
I'm trying to think, did you launch from Scout and Frodo's, or did you launch from a hotel or hostel or something?
No, they were closed.
They were already closed.
Scout and Frodo weren't taking anybody. I was too early. I was too early for Scout and Frodo's.
Got it.
Because I'd started on the 7th. So yeah, I started on the 11th. I landed in San Diego on the 7th, and then stayed in a hostel over there, and then made my way to the southern terminus, and then started on my own. And then that was pre-COVID. You didn't know anything about it, so
yeah,
it was very weird. I'd started on my own, and I thought there was going to be this massive group of people that I'd start with, and I ended up starting on my own, and only at camp later on that night or along the trail walked past a few other people, and that's when it really sets in. Is like, where are you going? And oh, I'm going to Canada. And they're like, oh, me too. And it's okay, well we'll see you there.
I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other.
Yes, that was it. Yeah. That was great.
I feel like last year's trail was almost a throwback to 10, 15, to pre-wild times in terms of just the amount of people on the trail. Exactly.
The amount of people that we saw that said, especially in Kennedy Meadows North, and they said, we haven't seen the trail like this since 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And those are the days when a PCT hiker came through that it made town news. It was, there's a PCT hiker in town, and everybody wanted to help them out. And I think that last year harkened back to those old days when the PCT hikers are here, and the further north we got, the more they were like, they're still going. People are still going to do it. The trail will still, it won't be this ghostly forgotten track that's overgrown. And it was definitely, we heard that more. Now that you say that, we heard that so much, that people hadn't seen the trail like this since way back when, because people live along the trail. They see this every year come and go. It's a new experience for a lot of people, but for a lot of people along these trail towns, they see this every year, and they said, we haven't seen it like this in years, but we are still so glad to see you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny. I grew up in a small town in Washington called Leavenworth, which is sometimes one of the places that people dump out from the trail, come into town and restock and resupply and that kind of thing. And I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And it's so funny because I seriously don't remember ever hearing about, seeing, hikers coming through, or the PCT or anything like that, even though it's literally in the neighborhood, so to speak.
Yes.
Because there were so few people who were doing it at that point.
Yes, there were. And then like you say, pre-wild days, with Reese Witherspoon, we were running jokes about that on the trail, and sort of made the trail a bit more known, a bit more people know about the trail, so more people are going to try and do the trail. And I don't care if you're out there for one day or 1 month. If you're hiking on the Pacific Crest Trail, you're with a group of people that really understand what it's about and are really willing to help each other. And there was none of this snobbiness that you're only a section hiker, or you're only doing from this town to this town, which I've heard there has been in the past, that it was the through hikers versus everyone else. And there was none of that this year. And it was just great to see. I mean, I met a lady she was in the 17th year of section hiking the trail, and we met her in her last 50 miles of completing the PCT. And that was incredible to meet her. And we met another lady who was doing a lake tour of the PCT. She was swimming in every single lake along the trail. And we were just like, that's crazy, that's crazy. But you meet these people and they've got phenomenal stories, and it was super interesting.
So the woman who was doing the lake tour, was she literally hiking the entire thing and just making sure to hit the lakes as she went, or?
Yeah, I hit the lakes as she went. She was coming south.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think we saw her. Where did we see her? I can't remember. I think we were still in Northern Oregon where we saw her. I might be wrong. And she was like, oh, there's a great lake up there, and there's a great lake up there. And we're like, oh, that's fantastic. She was like, in fact, I can tell you about some really good lakes that you should stop and swim in. And we were like, how do you know all this? And she was like, well, you're going to think I'm kind of weird, but I'm trying to swim in every single lake along the trail. On the trail. She wasn't going to walk to every single one that you can see, but she swam in quite a few of them.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It just reminds me how everybody's hike, everybody's journey is unique to them. And so the moments that are impactful for them or that are important for them can be so different. And it's not until you say she's doing a lake tour of the PCT that you think about what that could mean, what that would mean if you were doing it with that in mind versus something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks if you're doing the PCT, you either go north or you go south, but you could do a burger tour of the PCT.
You could do a pie tour, a dessert tour.
A pie, exactly. I mean, there were so many things that are so unique to the PCT, but that you find along the way, and it's like, oh, it's very strange when you do look back. And I haven't thought about it that way, but there's multiple ways to do the trail, and it's constantly evolving. It's an incredible thing.
Yeah. So what was your way of doing the trail?
Slowly, I'd say. People were always saying that they were going to do this many miles a day, and this was going to be the way they ended, and they had this date in mind that they were wanting to end. And because I'm South African, I had a visa restriction. I had to finish the trail in 6 months. So I said to myself, I'm going to walk on this trail until 11:59 on the last day that I'm allowed to be in the States. I want this to last as long as possible. And if there was a place that we wanted to stop, we stopped. And it was never about this. This is really, really corny, but it was always about the smiles, not the miles. And that was a running joke with us. There were some days when you had to push, and there were some days when I really wanted to push. And you start seeing that you're physically capable to do it. In the beginning, it never gets easier, but you just get used to it. And so I really wanted to experience as much of it as possible and make it last as long as possible. So
how long did you make it last?
6 months and 3 days. I ended up getting an extension.
Nice job.
I ended up getting an extension. Thank you. I ended up getting an extension on my visa. And it took us 6 months and 3 days. And then I spent some time up in Washington and sort of decompressing. We didn't want to, you build very tight relationships with the people that you finish with. And I'd met a special someone along the trail, and we didn't really want it to be get to the northern terminus, hit and run. So we needed some time in Seattle afterwards to kind of slowly peel off in our own way until you're the last one left. And it's this round loop. I started on my own, and I was standing in a train station in Seattle, and I was back on my own, and a lifetime had passed. And then it was just okay. It was a movie. It was every night you close your eyes and you can sort of feel yourself walking again. It was the strangest thing when you've been in the sea for quite a while and you go back to your bed and you lie and you can sort of feel the waves going over you again.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was, I'd lie back in bed and I could feel myself walking again. And that was very strange. That was to finally not be walking after having done it every single day for 6 months. To finally just be still and be still for as long as you wanted to be. Then the internal workings started happening, you know.
What do you mean?
I think I said earlier before we started the show that I didn't really realize there wasn't this great epiphany on the trail because you're too busy experiencing things to have this epiphany. It was only after the trail that you'd stopped walking and you'd stopped experiencing this magical life, that you start looking around the world around you and you just want to be back there. So you start thinking back to the things that happened there. And then the epiphany started slowly flowing in. And then the changes started getting noticed. And then it was, I'd be listening to a song that I'd enjoyed listening to on the afternoon session, you know, after lunch. You'd sort of do a session, and then by 3 o'clock, the sun's coming through the trees, and it's a beautiful time to be walking through the woods, and everything's just sort of like the day animals are going to bed and the night animals are coming alive, and you've got some headphones in and you're listening to a song, and this just purely walking and enjoy. You've got enough water, you've got enough food, you know you're going to get to a camp, and the peace, just the simple peace, was astounding, you know. And I'd listen to those songs again and I'd go back to it and it would take me there, and I'd listen to that song and there's tears rolling down my face, and I'm like, why? I'm like, because I'm not there, I'm not on the trail anymore. And I very desperately wanted to be. I nearly went on another trail, and mom and dad wouldn't have been too happy about that. it was very, very close to, and I did come to a decision that would be trying to grab at it and latch onto something, and you have to let it go for the experience that it was, and you will find other trails and you will have different experiences, but your first through hike there is nothing else like it in the world. If anybody that's listening to this is on the fence about whether or not to walk north or do any long trail, I'm begging you, just please do it for yourself. You will, even if you don't finish, even if you do 5 days, go out there and get on a long trail and just see the way of life. And it's phenomenal. It really is.
Can you close your eyes, particularly if you're playing a song from the trail, but can you close your eyes and picture or visualize yourself walking the trail?
Definitely, without a doubt. I can picture the way my bag feels. I can feel my bag on my back. That becomes like a part of you. I can hear certain things. You can smell things. I can. There's some views that just stand out, that just blow your mind. When you close your eyes and you have a dream about being back on trail, you wake up in an amazing mood. You know? I can close my eyes and very vividly meeting new people, having conversations, or getting to dinner and getting to camp and making dinner and being warm and sitting around and laughing and having a drink with your friends and laughing about the day and the uphill that you went over for the 5th time that ruined you, and you're like, oh, how was that one? Oh, it was a bugger. Hey, yeah, that was a real bugger. Oh, what does tomorrow look like? And somebody's got gut hook out, and you're looking at tomorrow and be like, oh, you think today was tough, tomorrow is going to be a nightmare. And those sections, there was never I won't say there was never a sense of dread. It was always a sense of excitement, and particularly the snow. For me, coming from South Africa, I'd never seen snow before in my life, and I got to Julian and we had a snowstorm, and I was running outside catching snowflakes in my mouth, and It went from being this very fluffy, soft thing that you see in the movies to cursing the snow. I mean, the post-holing and climbing Mount Whitney and getting to the top of Whitney through some snow with an ice axe that I'd learned to use by watching a YouTube video. And I mean, not the best practice. I'd really recommend learning how to use the thing before going up Whitney. But those things, like throwing snowballs at each other or flicking snow at each other with your trekking pole, I mean, being in a way a child again, and you're allowed to be, because the woods wants you to be that. The woods and the forest and the mountains that wants you to just enjoy it. And as long as you're out there enjoying it, it gives so much back to you. It really does. I heard give something to the trail and it'll give it back to you. I went out there and I gave everything. I gave absolutely everything I could, and it gave it all back to me tenfold.
They also say that you pack your fears when you hit the trail.
100%. You do. You pack certain things with you that, am I going to finish this? I've told everyone I'm going. Are you going to come back a failure? That I couldn't do it. I quit. You know, are there going to be times when I'm too scared to go on, or I don't want to go on? How am I logistically going to get north? You know, people plan for months before the trail that I'm going to do this many miles and I'm going to get to this stop, and the planning stops the second you take a step away from the southern terminus. It's completely true. So it was very, very, you do pack your fears without a doubt. You do. They stay in your bag, locked away, until there's something out there that scares you more than what's in your bag. And then once you conquer that, the fears that were in your bag are no longer there anymore. It's this weight has been lifted from you. And
what was that for you?
Mather Pass, without a doubt.
Why?
Mather, climbing Mather, because I'm not a fan of heights. I was never I'm not a fan of heights at all. And when you do the PCT, they say it's a hike. At some stages, there is mountaineering involved. Let me tell you that. At some stages, you are climbing, and they don't tell you that in the brochure. So you are climbing straight up a face at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you all of a sudden kicking steps up and using an ice axe. You're carrying a backpack on your back that is close to 30 pounds, 35, 40 pounds, because of all your snow gear and the food to get you through. And you look down and you're all of a sudden in a place where if you fall, you're not going to come off. You're not going to walk away from it. And I'd all of a sudden got myself into this situation, and you can't turn around. You can't stop. Nobody else is going to carry your bag for you. You've gotten yourself into this situation, and now you have to get yourself out of it. And regardless of who you're with and their skill level, you're the one that's taking each and every single step. And when I got to the top of that, wasn't in the best mood because of how scared I was, and how I found myself being scared. But then again, you having these honest conversations with people around you, because you have been walking with them for the last month, so they see when you're off. And it's not a therapy session, but you do get to vent in a very, very honest way. And I was, in a sense, a bit of ashamed of how scared I was. But then it was, well, did you get up it? Did you do it? And you were like, yes, I did. And then you look back on it, and it was a low point on the trail for me, but looking back on it, it was a very, very positive experience. Now I know that you can do those things, and you have this new belief in yourself in a cave. if I'm capable of that, what else am I capable of? And so I've carried that through into my life now, that even if you're scared to do something, just one step at a time, put one foot in front of the other and focus on that. And it's really, really incredible the momentum you'll get from doing that. It's kind of philosophical, but it's the truth.
Yeah, it's interesting how much I hear in talking with people about fear, or being scared or that kind of thing, how confronting it, getting through it, stretches what you find yourself afraid of the next time and the next time and the next time. And each time you push through that, your threshold for fear changes, but also your confidence that you can do it regardless of the fear.
Completely. Once I'd gotten over that, I was like, bring it on. Let's
come on,
let's go. Let's have it now. Yeah, let's get it on now. Yeah, you're not going to stop me with that. Then I'll be fine for the rest of the trail. And I was. I mean, the rest of the trail. Everybody says you have massive highs and massive lows, and that was my low point. But looking back on it, was a real high point for me. Mm-hmm. And for the rest of that was honestly the only time I really wasn't the happiest version of myself on the trail. But the rest of the time was just pure bliss, pure ecstasy, just running around, screaming around the corners. Wow, look at that. Look at that. And then people are coming up behind you and they're howling at you, and you just all stand there, and this hush comes over the group as you all just look at it and how small you feel, the grandeur, the epicness, and you got yourself here. Why isn't everybody here? Where is everybody? What is everyone doing? Come on,
It's almost like, here. I know, but it's almost like on the flip side of that is that if everybody knew that it was there, if everybody was there, that moment wouldn't exist.
Oh yeah.
Because you'd have people just
definitely
talking away.
Yes, definitely. That hush completely loses it. And the remoteness of the trail this year, in not having all those people around, mm-hmm. and not getting to a campsite with 20 people or 30 people, it made the social aspect less, but it made the realness of the trail. Not saying that people from previous years or from future years won't experience the real trail, but there definitely was this hush of you're in sacred ground. You're on a really beautiful part of the world.
Well, I've heard some people describe it on each of the different trails that it was almost a little bit like nature started to kind of take back itself a little bit, because you just didn't have the volume of people going through, and the animals weren't as cautious, so to speak, sometimes.
Definitely. I mean, deer, everybody sees the deer and squirrels, and we saw a few bears and the snakes and everything, but you can definitely feel the trail. Like in 5 years, there won't be a trail because it'll just have closed back and taken itself back for it. So we're sort of there on borrowed time.
Yeah.
And huge shout out to the US Forestry Service and the men and women who help do the trail maintenance on the Pacific Crest Trail. You guys are saints. They're amazing. I mean, they're out there with picks and axes, with a horse and a faithful dog running behind them, and they're out there helping us get north. Because some of them have done the PCT. Yeah. Others of them have had friends and family that have done the PCT, and others of them are just doing it because they like being outdoors. And so to all the people that help out on the trail there, man, you guys are amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's the truth. They're great guys.
I think it feels sometimes like the trail is just magically there, particularly the Pacific Crest Trail, because it is so groomed. It's so clear, I guess.
Yes, it's perfect. I mean, it's not a walk in the park by no means, but you aren't, okay, there are some brushy sections, but you can see where they've taken the time and the effort to clear a path to make it easier for you. Because if they didn't do that, I'd probably still be out there and it would have been a completely different journey entirely. But I mean, and their conversations and the way they talked to us, I mean, they were just great. I mean, really, they really were. And to people who left water out there for us, the simple act of that is, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the kindness of the people associated with this trail, particularly for me, because I haven't experienced any other trail, but was just, it showed me a different side of humanity. And one of the changes I've had is I'd lost a bit of faith in humanity before I went on the trail. I wasn't the greatest fan of us. And coming out of it, there are people out there who go above and beyond for people that they will never and have never met. And that took some getting around.
Yeah. We all are infinitely dependent upon the kindness of strangers. But
it's weird, but we are. It's weird, but we are, especially on the trail, because there's some hitches where if you don't get it, you're walking really, really far along the road. And this was a tough year for that. People didn't want to pick us up, but the people that did, they knew what we were going through. They knew the struggles. We were like, aren't you scared? And they were like, I need to be scared of people that have spent 2 weeks in the woods.
The safest.
You guys have just won the social. Yeah, you've won the social distancing championship hands down. There's no one near you. And we were like, oh, we kind of see it that way as well, So it was very different viewpoints, but very, very cool.
These are the best type of stories, honestly, because
cool.
It's almost like regardless of the story and the experience for each individual person, what's almost more important is that what comes through is the love for the trail.
Oh yeah, man. that was a very funny thing, that word that you just said, love, because I'm 32 years old now, and the last relationship that I'd had was when I was 19. And to go through your whole 20s without finding love was, at one point, you almost, can I love something or someone anymore? And along the trail, I was lucky enough to find the love of the trail and the love of somebody else, and that was just phenomenal for me to just actually see that you can do it. And it was one of the greatest gifts the trail gave me. So yeah, it was just, you do love the trail. You genuinely love it. And I'd do anything for it. I'd donate where I can and help out where I can. And one day I hope to go back and do a little bit of trail magic for somebody, just to show them that you're doing the right thing, and be there in the way that some random stranger was there for me, because it's not all about what you can get from it. It's about what you can give back.
Do you feel like the trail loves you back?
No, she kicked my ass every single day. Broke me. I was ruined. I was on ibuprofen, vitamin I from like 3 months in. I only recovered fully a month ago. But no, she loves us. She loves us.
She's like that tough coach that keeps you moving forward.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
keeps you moving forward no matter what. Yeah. But
you got to do your wind
sprints. Makes it hard. Yeah, that's it. She makes you work for it. It's so true.
What did your trail name end up being?
There were a few options on the table. Stoker went around for a while, and then it ended up being Tails. So
Tails, like
that was
stories?
kind of No, tails as in
like
tail of an animal, tail of a dog, like a tail. That was just kind of self-given, self-accepted by the group, because whenever I'd walk behind somebody, I'd kind of stick on their tail, and they'd say, "Oh, do you want to go past?" And I'd be like, "Nah, I'm fine. I can get in a good rhythm, and you'll break pace." And only later on did I realize that that's quite annoying when somebody just sticks on your tail like that. A good and a bad thing.
So thee was dubbed.
Yeah, tails was dubbed. That was it.
You had in the few postings on social media that you did do, you had posted about 100-kilometer day. Was that the biggest that you did?
Biggest that I did, yes. The furthest that I'd ever walked, 62 miles in a day. So there's 62-mile challenge from Mount Jefferson to Timberline Lodge in Oregon. And that was towards the end of the trail. And there were a few things that I wanted to see if I could do. And that was one of them. And in the beginning, my biggest day, my first day, I did 11 miles and I was shattered. I was ruined. And that was with walking 3 miles and stopping for half an hour, or walking 2 miles and stopping for 10 minutes. And that day, Mount Jefferson to Timberline Lodge, me and a French guy, Pierre, we walked to Timberline Lodge together, 62 miles through the night. It took us 22 hours, 33 minutes.
22 hours and wow.
Yeah. And that was an achievement. I was really, really happy about that.
Did you arrive in time for breakfast?
We arrived in time for breakfast. We arrived in time for beers. I can tell you that. We went straight to the bar. I can tell you that. We hobbled to the bar, but we were really, really happy. And then my longest day walking without stopping, putting my pack down or anything like that, just getting water, was 22 miles. So it's these little hurdles. You find ways to keep you entertained out there between listening to podcasts, books, and music. There's these little hurdles that you like to get over and little challenges that you make up for yourself along the way. I don't know, it's pretty funny along the way. The ways you find to keep you busy out there.
It can be very monotonous.
It can be. There are days when it's not as fun as it should be. My worst days were always days leaving town. It's always an uphill out of town. Your pack's always super heavy. You're inevitably only getting on trail at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So the day is really, really long. And you kind of want to get away. And I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all, but the people that weren't hiking were affectionately named the Muggles. And you kind of want to get away from them pretty quickly. And so your first day out of town is generally a big day, and that can get really monotonous because you've just been in town, eaten as much food as you can, and your bag's really, really heavy, and then it's the slog, and you've got a big day ahead of you, and it's going to be a long day. But then a day out of that, you see why you're out there very, very quickly as soon as you get to camp.
I've heard a lot of people describe Northern California as sort of the least favorite section of the trail.
For me, it was Northern Oregon. I missed the mountains. I really missed the mountains. You stay in the forest for quite a lot in Northern Oregon. And it's funny, when you have a lot of gradient change, it breaks the day up. Once you get off over this big uphill, you might have a downhill and an uphill, and you can get up it. When it's a long flat section, there's nothing that really breaks the day up, or that you can set as a checkpoint or a marker for where you want to stop. So that becomes Northern Oregon for me. And the mosquitoes got very, very old very, very quickly. Yes, that was, man. That's as bad as people say. I tell you that. Take a head net, folks, and learn to walk really quickly because they'll get you.
Swarms of mosquitoes.
Yeah, just just clouds, and I'd walk with my headphones in because you can hear them just. And if you wake up too late and you're not out before the sun's up, they're on you, and then that makes packing up in the morning just an absolute nightmare. And yeah, that was tough. But yeah, NorCal was, the thing about NorCal is you've just left the Sierras, and the excitement is the levels are just through the roof. You did it. You got through the Sierras. And so I was riding that wave for a really long time. And then, of course, we're out of the States, we're going to get out of California. And then it's almost like this, where are we walking? And there were a couple of times, and it's like, oh, how long till we're out of California? And we've been out of California for like 3 days. And you're like, oh, we're actually in Oregon now. And the scenery changes, and the signs change, and people congratulate you. They're like, well done for making out of California. We know it's a long state, but you're in the friendlier state now. And there's this rivalry. There's this crazy rivalry between states that I don't understand, but you American guys love it. You seem to bag on each other's states quite a lot.
Yeah. We have a little state rivalry.
You do. It's healthy rivalry, but there's definitely a rivalry there.
Yeah. When you hit the PCT, you hadn't done the snow thing. I'm assuming you had never done like a rattlesnake thing.
No.
What about, like, I'm assuming no bears, or
No.
some of those other animals as well. Like, what was that like for you as you came to each of them?
Each of the hurdle. Well, coming from South Africa, you're pretty accustomed to wild animals. It's not like they're on our doorstep or anything, but I'd seen my fair share of snakes. But the problem with the PCT is you are not a car ride away from a hospital. It is a lot more of a serious thing if you get bitten by a snake out there than if I were to get bitten by a snake at home, because then it is the Garmin SOS button, or you're hoping you're close enough to town, because then it is a very, very serious situation. So when we did come across rattlesnakes and things like that, it was a more cautious route than just being like, okay, we probably shouldn't walk with both our headphones in blaring music because we won't hear them rattling. Okay, it'll be one headphone from now. And you learn that lesson very, very quickly when you step right next to them and all of a sudden they're there. So yeah, that was something that was a first for me. But I'd hiked before. I think somebody that just goes from with no hiking experience and never put on a backpack in their life to going to the PCT is maybe borderline naive. I know people have done it.
Yeah.
But I'd hiked before at home, so I kind of knew what I was getting into in terms of that.
What was Mather's Pass the most difficult day for you, or was there another day that was?
Mentally, yes. Mather was really, really difficult. Whitney was also really difficult. Again, my lack of snow experience, and you are in the no fall zone where if you do slip, you're going to come short and really badly. I mean, we had a death on the trail last year. Microsoft, wherever you are, man, I hope you're happy up there, brother. But that really hit home. That really made it a reality that it's not a walk in the park. So Mather was a hard day for me. Climbing Whitney was a hard day for me. And then doing the 62 miles, but I made that hard for myself. It wasn't the terrain making it hard for me. But there is a difference between physical toughness and mental toughness. Some days you just don't want to do it. And there's no need to feel guilty that you're not having the best experience out there. And somebody might be having a fantastic day and they're enjoying the terrain. But when you are beating through the bush for 3 or 4 hours and, okay, when is this going to end? And the stream that you thought was going to be running isn't running, and your snacks are packed really deep in your bag, and are you going to get them out now, or should you just try and push for camp? And and then you sometimes get to camp and a spot for 5 people is literally a spot for 1, and those little frustrating things come and go. It really is like water off a duck's back. You don't worry about it, but definitely some days are harder than others.
It feels like that's also part of the overall experience of you can face your fear, you can do hard things, you can do monotonous things,
Yes.
you can do long things. It's like all of these little best word to have is little things that you pick up from doing the trail that seem insignificant but aren't.
I mean, I think what you're trying to get at is doing something monotonous and pushing through it in a positive light, but there's a benefit to doing that, like working a 9 to 5, it is monotonous, but if you can do it and you can have a plan for when you do it, you're saving up for something better. And to have a positive attitude while you're doing something monotonous, like I said before, 1 step at a time. Focus on what you're doing now. Don't let the external forces deter you or detract you. Just focus on you, stay in your lane. And all of a sudden you lift your head up and the metaphorical view to the entire valley is there in front of you. And you look back at what you've done and you were just like, it actually wasn't that bad. And this is what I mean by the trail giving stuff to you. It teaches you how to deal with hard days, good days, bad days, monotony, anger, frustration. It's out there all. Everything is out there. This range of emotions, phenomenal.
Yeah. Did you do much night hiking?
Not much. It was the one night that we did the 62-mile challenge. That was the only night that I hiked. Some people did the aqueduct at night, but we didn't really need to because we started early enough, so there was enough water. And I don't know, for some reason I didn't really feel the need to night hike. I mean, I had my head torch on some of the times, and sometimes we'd walk into the night, or we'd start really, really early in the morning at like 2 o'clock in the morning to try and beat the post holing of the snow. And that's incredible. I mean, you walk under the stars and the snow's really hard, so you're super grateful, and that's really, really cool. But there was never an objective to walk to like sleep until 5 o'clock in the afternoon and just straight for night. No, not really that.
Were you up in the Sierras and doing that early rise in order to get the good snow with like a full moon or whatever, where it's almost like the moon is lighting everything for you?
Definitely. We had that one night, and that was just, we had the whole range of it. I mean, we had everything. We had nights when there was no moon at all, and the stars, it's literally like somebody's dipped a paintbrush in white paint and splattered it across the sky, to nights that there's a full moon and you can see each other, and it's the moonlight comes through the clouds, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, there's a car up the road, and it's not, it's the moon rising, and there was definitely nights like that. We had this entire range of this. We had it all. We had it all. We had the whole trail to ourselves, and we had it all. It was just, man, it was nice. It was so good.
It was almost like nature gave you the buffet and said, what would you like?
Yes. What would you like today? Would you like a moon? No moon? Would you like stars? How about this lake that's surprisingly warm, and this crystal clear spring that's super refreshing and really cold after your long uphill that you've just done that I would curse? And I mean, just even to seeing animals and walking, and then all of a sudden there's a deer there, and I know people hate the deer or whatever.
No, they do.
They hate on the deer, and I don't know why, but you're there and you almost stop, and they look at you and you look at them, and they don't run away. They know that you're just walking through, passing through. And you take your photo of the stupid deer, oh, cool deer. Off you go, and you carry on walking. And there's almost this like, cool, I'm just here doing my thing. You just there doing yours, and carry on along the trail. Keep walking.
I could see it would be hysterical, but the movie in my head is you have a deer who's eating, somebody walks by, they get their camera out to take the picture, and the deer looks up, poses, you get the picture, and then they kind of do that dude nod, like
yes,
I'm gonna go back.
Exactly. I see you, bro. I see you. It's exactly that. Yeah, and the squirrels as well. Oh, we went a bit mad out there, I tell you. You do start making friends with some funny things.
Did you have because squirrels, particularly as you're walking by them and whatever, can tend to yell at you, so to speak?
Yes. We had what was that flippin' mouse? A pika. There's a pika in the hills, and we'd affectionately called it a koala mouse because it's got big ears like a koala.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys screeched you, and I'd be walking along the trail, and this koala mouse would be shouting at me, and then I'd catch myself having a full-blown conversation with the thing, being like, oh, hello, koala mouse, how are you today? Oh, I'm just passing through, got a lovely view here. And you stop and you're like, what are you talking to? Are you mad? Just let me eat my Snickers and carry on walking down the trail, Blah.
Yeah. It is one way to break up the monotony.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, audiobooks. I've learned a surprising amount while I was out there. You put on an audiobook, and next minute you're 5 chapters down. Yeah. You at lunch, and I mean podcasts as well. Learning things from podcasts and stuff like that. It's the people. Some people say, "Oh, it's a waste of time," and you don't learn anything. All you do is learn. You learn a lot. You learn more than you think you'll learn. And with the advent of technology and stuff like that, I mean, some people wouldn't want to listen to music. They just want to listen to the sounds of nature. And you see them a month later, and they've got headphones in, and they're just listening to whatever they want to listen to. So, technology was there, and that is becoming more and more of a part of the trail.
Yeah.
And you can embrace it, but it's there. It's there if you need it. And if you don't want to have it, just leave it in the shoulder strap.
Yeah. It's everybody's personal choice on any given day.
Yeah, definitely. On any given day, some people might not listen to music at all, and some people might need to listen to music because there's a guy snoring in the tent next to them, and
I cannot even imagine.
That can happen. But like I say, we really did have the trail to ourselves, and we were so lucky and so fortunate to just have the pick of the campsites. And you'd walk past a phenomenal campsite, and we'll just go see what the next one is, and then you get to the next one and it's even better, and you're just like, oh man, this is phenomenal.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should?
I met someone on trail. I'd like to mention her, if you don't mind.
Please. Yeah, absolutely.
We met on day one. She was
really
one of the we met on day one. We were very just met randomly, nothing came of it. We ended up spending 6 months and 3 days walking north, and we fell in love along the way. And it wasn't just a trail fling. It's still Austin. She's in the Netherlands. I'm in Costa Rica. And through a mutual love of hiking, we met each other, and it's become something that's we have common ground. We helped each other through a lot, and she was really special. So shout out to her, Crux, if you're listening. Hey girl. But yeah, that, and then I was going to write some things down, but it's been such a crazy day being on the boat because we're moving now. Sorry, that's why the signal was probably dropping out.
No worries. You also seem, the window or something also seems to open all of a sudden because you've got bright light.
No,
there.
we're going past. I'll show you. That's the window. There's the sea.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're at sea now, just moving the boat for the evening.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but there was just the people. I mean, a guy gone. He was the South Korean that I met, and he didn't speak a word of English when he started the trail. And the bravery that takes that man to come to a foreign country and try and do the journey that he did was really special. So shout out to him and to everybody else that I walked with and I met, guys. Was the first, but it definitely won't be the last.
Seeing him do that, like that, meaning with literally no English and what have you, did that make you think about things that you could do of that nature as well, like dropping yourself?
Oh, definitely go to a foreign country. I never thought I'd go to a foreign country. I mean, I've traveled quite extensively in my life, but it's always been to countries where English is the main language. Mm-hmm. And you all of a sudden realize, hey, there are all these possibilities out there. I mean, Japan, for example. I mean, I really want to go and do a walk in Japan. And just to experience. What have you have? What have you got?
There's an episode coming up that will drop before your episode, but I spoke with a guy who did the Shikoku pilgrimage trail around. It's basically it's a trail that goes 88 temples and it goes around Shikoku Island, and it looked and sounds amazing. I want to do it.
Phenomenal. I'm in. We have to meet one day when we're out there. The next thing for me up next is Tia Ora 2022, New Zealand. And then definitely in the future, my Triple Crown. The bug's bitten and really bitten hard. And the lifestyle of an expedition, the lifestyle that's surrounded with working for a period of time and then making sure that my life is filled with these adventures. Life is an adventure, but there are places you can put yourself that really push you, that really drive you. And that's what I'm seeking now. You've opened a can of worms, when you do something like this. And just be prepared just be careful what you wish for when you go out there, because you just might get it all.
Yeah. I've said that to a couple of people, that having spoken now with so many of you, and hear how your lives have changed and been changed by doing the trail, it is sort of like opening a can of worms. And it's like, okay, like what do I think of now that I'm like, I would never want to do that? And all of a sudden I'll get on the other side of a trail and go, that sounds great.
Yes, that sounds phenomenal. I mean, I can definitely see you out there on the trail, and Tales from the Trail with Erin, carrying a little microphone and a speaker and being out there and getting a first-hand account of what's going on that day at that moment in time, and I said before the episode that you've given people a platform now, and by doing that, I really hope you get something in return for it. And thank you just for the space. It's post-hike depression is a real thing. Leaving a trail, you can read as many books as you want, but until you're sitting in a hotel room alone and your trail family is not there and the trail life isn't there, and you're now thinking about what you're eating, and you can't eat a jar of Nutella every day, and you have to start thinking about the real world, and you're thousands of miles away without the ability to go home, and looking at the photos and realizing just how much you miss it. We need the community, as much as the community needs us to help it keep it alive and help keep businesses afloat. We need it too. We really need to be there for each other, and speaking to other hikers about how it changed their lives. Just mentioning a few names: Jay Shotwell. Jay, if you're out there, Jay Bird, man, the lessons I learned from you. And Brock Barry, he served in the military, dealing with PTSD coming through the trail, and the things that he helped me get through with him. I mean, I stayed with him after the trail. People like that, that have really traumatizing life events, and their take on it and how they help you move past what you're going through, and the depression that I felt afterwards about not being on the trail. I didn't think I'd struggle as much as I did, but it took me about 2-3 months to really, really come right again and be okay with not being on the trail, because it becomes the safe space. As much as people think. I mean, my biggest worries in the world were food, water, and where I was going to camp for the night and how many miles I was going to do. I wasn't worried about bills or anything. It's the basics. And once the basics were covered, had enough water, had enough food, I knew where I was walking. Everything else boils down to enjoying what's around you. It's life in its simplest form, in the most purest way you can live it, while still having an objective and a sense of accomplishment that each step you took every single day was one step closer to your goal. You took a step, I'd accomplished that. I'm closer to Canada now than I was 5 steps ago. You accomplish something every day just by keeping going, and you don't get that in the real world. It takes a long time to have a sense of accomplishment, and just simply by being on the show today, I've accomplished something. I've been able to speak to the community that gave me so much and say thank you to them, and thank you to you. And that's what it comes down to, is we are here for each other. We are still hikers. I'm still part of a WhatsApp group with my friends that I made along the trail, and I can send them stupid photos, and we do have stuff to relate to. And I changed in the fact that I'm not so much a people person. I'm more of, I've got a small circle, and the circle got smaller, but it got a lot tighter.
Those people have seen you at your best and your worst.
Without a doubt. And when you do say they've seen you at your best, they have seen you at the best version of you. Hiking will bring that. Through hiking will bring that out of you. If you're worried about your image across the world, or you're worried about, am I a good person, or how am I going to interact, go on a long hike. The Aborigines do it. They go on a walkabout. People have been pilgrimaging since the dawn of time. Cultures around the world call it different things. They go and experience a walk in nature because it cleans you, it frees you, it gives you something that you will not get by being in a socialized situation with too many people talking. You need time on your own. You're hardly ever alone from the time you're born until the time you die. You might have brief moments of loneliness, but put yourself in a situation when you're just with nature, and it really, really, really does teach you a lot. Hey, wow. I'll be walking for the rest of my days. As long as I'm able to walk, I'll be walking. I can tell you that.
It's in your blood now.
It's in my blood. It's in my blood now. Many people have said it, and many people will say it before. And if one day, I mean, we didn't have trail days because of the COVID thing, but if one day there's a hiking convention, or somebody puts out that there will be a hike, and the all-star hike, there's people that are known in the community now, RB Tats, Tip Tap, just to name a few. There are a couple of others, and Darwin, Dixie, there are people that are out there, that if they say, hey, we did this hike, they've got this aura about them.
Mm-hmm.
I hope to be, if not famous, I just hope to be a voice of conviction to say, do it. If you're on the fence, if you need a sign to say, go on to do it.
Here's your sign.
I'm telling you now. Here's the sign. Read it. Open your eyes. Listen to what I'm telling you. Go and walk north.
So where should people find you if they have questions, or want to just confirm that the sign is telling them what they think it's telling them?
Yeah, definitely. My Instagram is public, so they can hit me up on that. Daniel_sun_SA. DANIEL _Son SON_SA. And I'll answer any questions, day or night. I mean, I love it to talk anything hiking, anything gear. Even if you're just feeling depressed and you missed the trail, let's have a conversation, talk it out. And if you've got questions about anything, really anything hiking, I mean, the door's open, the 10 flaps open, so to speak, and let's share a granola bar and talk about why. Yeah, let's share Snickers and get down to the nuts and bolts of why we're out there,
Yeah. What was your favorite? I should rephrase that. What was one of your favorite days out on the trail? Or in those 6 months and 3 days?
In those 6 months and 3 days, the top of Vorster Pass, because there's this stigma surrounding Vorster. There's this, if you get to Vorster, that was one of my favorite days, was getting to the top of Vorster, and we were in a group and we were all just talking and laughing and giggling, and there's this huge valley that you see, and it was almost like, let's get on down it, and by then the snow confidence was coming, then it was still before Mather. I was still naive, but it was really, that was a really good day. That was a standout day. Crossing into Oregon, standout day. Goat Rocks in Washington, amazing day, really, really good day. Couple of days in some random lakes, just scorching hot, all the clothes are off and you're just running, jumping into this crystal clear water. Some really, really standout moments, and definitely day one. Taking the first step, touching the monument that so many others have touched before me, and to be able to say that I was there, surprisingly, day one. Day one, mile one, step one was one of the best days of my life. And coming down Whitney, coming down the backside of Whitney. I'll send you a few videos, Erin. I'll send you a few videos and you can tell me.
Perfect. Do you ever plan to post your vlogs that you were doing?
I do. Yes, I do. I have been working on it and I'm trying to put something together. But me and computers are not really great. Definitely. I've got so much footage and I did keep a daily vlog of everything. And I really do plan to release something out just to show people the side of the trail that I think it'll be different for everybody. But for me, this is the side of the trail that I really think speaks volumes for why it is there, why it should be done, and the group of people that do it, what you're getting yourself into. Be careful. They are crazy as you, and you will love them for it.
Everybody's crazy in the best way possible?
Yes, 100%. Crazy in the best way possible. Go down the rabbit hole and have fun. And life's about having fun. I know we're going through some really serious times and people are taking it on the chin, but just have fun. And when you're out, you're allowed to have fun. Don't feel guilty for having fun, for having a good time, for being a dork and throwing snow at each other and putting rocks in each other's bags and, like, just have fun. You're allowed to do it, so you might as well do it and enjoy it along the way.
Get back up.